Okay, so let's talk about the climate crisis. When you think about it, the big question isn't just what can I do, but maybe what's the right thing for me to do? Today, we're going to unpack a really powerful way to think about this, a framework that helps you move past the guilt and the usual advice to find where you can make a real, unique impact. Let's dive in. So, have you ever felt that pit in your stomach when you think about climate change? That sense of anxiety? Or maybe you just feel kind of paralyzed? If so, you're definitely not alone. It's so easy to get stuck doom scrolling or worrying or posting online, but when it comes to what we should actually do, it feels impossible to even know where to start. And usually when we look for answers, this is what we get, the standard list. And listen, all of these things are important for sure. But as Dr. Ayana Elizabeth Johnson points out, this advice is, well, it's pretty generic. It's one size fits all. It doesn't really ask us what unique talents, our own personal superpowers, we can bring to the fight. So what if we could flip the script? What if, instead of just asking, what green things can I do, we started asking, what am I uniquely built to contribute? Now that is a different question. And it's the really powerful pivot offered by marine biologist and policy expert Dr. Ayana Elizabeth Johnson. A huge piece of this new perspective is shifting our focus. You know, for way too long, the conversation has been bogged down in the cycle of individual guilt about our personal carbon footprints. And that can actually be a really dangerous distraction from the bigger systemic changes we desperately need to be focused on. And get this, here's a critical piece of history you might not know. The term carbon footprint wasn't some grassroots idea. It was actually popularized by fossil fuel companies themselves. Why? To shift the burden of responsibility from their massive operations onto us as individuals. Realizing that is so freeing, right? It lets us move past the guilt and start thinking about where we can have real systemic impact. Okay, so if we're not just going to obsess over our individual footprints, what should we be doing? Well, this is where a really brilliant tool comes into play, the Climate Action Venn Diagram. It's a surprisingly simple but really elegant way to find your purpose in all this complexity. And here it is. I know, it looks simple, right? Just 3 overlapping circles. But don't let that fool you. This diagram is designed to help you pinpoint the work that you, and maybe only you, are perfectly positioned to do. It's all about finding that powerful sweet spot where what you can offer meets what the world desperately needs. So the whole goal here is to find your personal sweet spot for climate action. This isn't just about finding any action to take. It's about finding the right one for you, the one where you'll be most effective and, just as importantly, the one that will actually keep you going for the long haul. All right, so how do we find that sweet spot? It all comes down to answering the 3 core questions that make up this diagram. So let's break it down, circle by circle. First up, circle number 1. And this one is all about you. It starts with a simple inventory of your strengths. What are your skills? What's your expertise? What unique talents and resources do you have at your disposal? And seriously, think big here. This isn't just about your job title. Of course, it's about your professional know-how, but it's also about the people you know, the resources you can tap into, even your hobbies. All of that stuff makes up your unique arsenal of superpowers. Okay, now for circle 2. This is where we shift our focus outward. Of all the possible climate and justice solutions out there, where's the most important work happening? What are the biggest levers we can pull to create real change? This is all about looking for what the source calls the gnarliest challenges. Where are the gaps that need to be filled? The goal is to get beyond the small-scale fixes and really identify those systemic solutions that can be scaled up to create massive positive change. And now for the final circle. And honestly, this one might be the most crucial of all. What gets you out of bed in the morning? What kind of work doesn't just drain you, but actually energizes and excites you? Now, to be clear, when we say joy, we're not just talking about fleeting happiness. The source points out that a better word might be satisfaction. This is the absolute key to avoiding burnout. Because tackling the climate crisis, well, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Finding the work that truly sustains you is what's going to keep you in the race. Okay, so we've got what you're good at, what work needs doing, and what brings you joy. Now for the magic part, bringing them all together. And this is the goal. That little sliver right there in the center, where all 3 circles overlap, that is your climate action sweet spot. That's the place where you can make the biggest difference, applying your greatest strengths to a critical problem in a way that fuels you for the journey. So let's make this feel a bit more real. Take Dr. Johnson herself. What's she good at? Marine biology and policy. What work needs doing? Well, protecting coastal cities from sea level rise is a big one. And what brings her joy? Serving her home community of Brooklyn. You put all that together, and what do you get? She co-founded the Urban Ocean Lab, a think tank dedicated to the future of coastal cities. It's a perfect fit. And that brings us to what might be the most important point of this whole thing. This Venn diagram, it's not just some navel-gazing exercise. It's a tool to help you find your specific role inside the massive, collective project of building a better world. I just love this quote because it makes it so clear. This is not a job for a handful of scientists and activists. We need everyone. We need farmers and teachers, engineers, designers, project managers, you name it. Every single skill set has a vital part to play. And here's the really good news. This probably doesn't mean you have to quit your job and become a full-time activist. In fact, you're often most powerful right where you are. You can use your specialized knowledge, your networks, your influence to push for meaningful change from inside your company or your school or your community. So here's your call to action. The source material really encourages you to actually draw this out. Don't just think about it. Grab a pen and some paper. What are your unique superpowers? What work is calling out to you? And what's going to bring you that deep satisfaction to see it through? We'll leave you with this final, powerful question from Dr. Johnson herself. The work is waiting, the solutions are out there. So the only real question left is, how soon and how fully will you find your way to yours?